In 1982, a 22-year-old man named Archie Williams from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, was accused of a crime that would change the course of his entire life. A woman had been brutally attacked in her home, and investigators were desperate to find someone to blame. Despite having no physical evidence linking him to crime, police officers placed Archie in a lineup. The victim, under pressure and in trauma, identified him as her attacker. That single moment sealed Archie's fate. Archie insisted he was innocent. On the morning of the crime, he was at home with family members who could vouch for him. There were no fingerprints matching his at the scene, and there was no DNA evidence pointing to him. Still, in the deep South of the 1980s, racial bias and systemic injustice ran deep. Prosecutors painted Archie as guilty, ignoring the facts that didn't fit their story. In 1983, Archie was tried for attempted murder, aggravated rape, and aggravated burglary. The trial lasted only a few days. His court-appointed lawyer had little time and resources to prepare a solid defense. The jury, composed mostly of white members, barely deliberated. They sentenced Archie Williams to life in prison without the possibility of parole. At only 22 years old, his life was stolen. Archie was sent to Louisiana State Penitentiary, known as Angola Prison, one of the harshest prisons in America. It was a place filled with violence, fear, and hopelessness. Archie walked in as a young man with dreams of freedom and a better life, but he quickly realized he was trapped in a nightmare. Inside prison walls, Archie experienced the crushing weight of injustice every single day. He missed birthdays, holidays, and funerals. He watched the seasons change through iron bars. Every night, he laid his head on a thin prison mattress, knowing he didn't belong there. And yet, he refused to let bitterness consume him. Archie found strength in music and faith. He sang gospel songs, prayed, and held on to the belief that one day the truth would set him free. He often said that music kept the soul alive. Even in the darkest hours, he would sing, and his voice would echo through the cold prison cells. Other inmates would listen, inspired by his hope despite his circumstances. But while Archie was in prison, the real perpetrator of the crime was still free. For decades, the Louisiana justice system ignored new evidence and rejected appeals. Requests to run fingerprints found at the crime scene through modern databases were repeatedly denied. The system was designed not to admit mistakes, but to protect convictions. Still, Archie never gave up. He wrote letters, filed appeals, and prayed for a miracle. His case caught the attention of the Innocence Project, a nonprofit dedicated to overturning wrongful convictions. Year after year, lawyers from the Innocence Project fought tirelessly to gain access to the fingerprint evidence from a 1982 crime. They knew that if those prints were tested against modern databases, the truth would finally come out. For 36 years, Archie sat in Angola prison. 36 long years of waiting, of hoping, of holding on to faith. Finally, in March 2019, everything changed. The Innocence Project persuaded the court to allow the fingerprint evidence to be run through the FBI's powerful database. What came back was shocking but undeniable. The fingerprints did not belong to Archie Williams. They matched another man, a known serial offender who had committed similar crimes. The truth was clear. Archie Williams was innocent. He had been robbed of 37 years of his life for a crime he did not commit. On March 21st, 2019, Archie stood in court one final time. But this time, the judge looked at him not as a convicted criminal, but as a man who had been wrongfully imprisoned for nearly 4 decades. When the ruling was read and his conviction was overturned, Archie broke down in tears. The courtroom erupted. After 37 years behind bars, he was finally free. Archie walked out of Angola prison a free man at 58 years old. He had entered at 22, and now, nearly 4 decades later, he was stepping into a world that had completely changed. Technology, culture, even the streets of Baton Rouge were almost unrecognizable. But Archie walked out with a smile, thankful for freedom, grateful to touch the hands of family and friends who had waited so long for this day. His story didn't end there. Archie began sharing his journey with the world, raising awareness about wrongful convictions and the flaws in the justice system. In 2020, he stepped onto one of the biggest stages in the world, America's Got Talent. When he told the judges his story, the audience was stunned. And when he sang Elton John's "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me," his powerful voice and unshakable spirit brought everyone to tears. He received a standing ovation. Archie Williams became a symbol of hope, resilience, and the fight for justice. His story shed light on thousands of innocent people who remain locked away in America's prisons, victims of broken systems, faulty investigations, and wrongful identifications. He once said, "Freedom is of the mind. I went to prison, but I never let prison enter me." Those words capture the strength of a man who refused to be broken, even when the world turned its back on him. Archie's life reminds us of the dangers of injustice and the importance of truth. It shows us the power of resilience, the necessity of reform, and the triumph of the human spirit. Today, Archie continues to sing, to inspire, and to fight for justice. His 37 years behind bars will never be forgotten, but his story now serves as a powerful beacon, proof that even in the darkest of times, hope can lead us to freedom.